Some women don't chase, and yet they're never forgotten. Not because they're loud, or because they demand attention, but because they awaken something in a man that even he does not wish to see. It is not love he feels at first. It is disturbance, a slow, unnameable shift, as if an old mirror in the deepest room of his soul has been turned to face him. There is a kind of woman who carries stillness like a weapon. She does not beg to be seen, and yet the entire weight of his ego bends toward her. Carl Jung would have called this the moment when the anima rises, when a man's buried feminine, the part he has denied and disowned, takes shape in flesh and stands before him. And suddenly, everything she does becomes more than what it seems. He notices how she does not rush, how she can sit in a room without needing to fill it with noise. And here is the first crack. For a man who has spent his life believing power comes from pursuit, her stillness becomes a mirror of all the parts of himself he has run from. Her presence is an interruption to the performance he lives by. And in the quiet, something strange begins to happen. His hunger grows sharper, but it is not hunger for her body. It is hunger for the pieces of himself that stir awake in her presence. The shadow rises, that dark twin of his own nature, where all his unspoken shame and longing sleep. Every time she does not give, every time she refuses to be pulled into the frantic orbit of his need, he feels the shadow pressing against the doors of his consciousness. Men will never admit the next thing, but it is here that obsession begins. Not with touch, not with words, with projection. He begins to see in her everything he cannot hold in himself. Grace where he is frantic, certainty where he is afraid, emotional depth where he has built walls. And so he chases. Not knowing that it is not her he wants, but the reflection of his own wholeness he glimpses in her eyes. This is why she becomes dangerous. Because the more she steps back, the more the gap between who he pretends to be and who he actually is begins to burn. And that gap cannot be closed with charm or conquest or the old tricks of ego. Here, his pride crumbles like paper. Her very absence draws him nearer to the truth he has spent his life avoiding. Some women hold a silence so deep it feels like a storm. And in that silence, he faces the second turning. He cannot fix her. He cannot own her, because she was never broken to begin with. And the realization tears at something inside him, like a small boy finally meeting the eyes of the father who never came. If he is wise, this becomes his threshold. For Jung knew that obsession is only the outer wrapping of a much older hunger, the longing to integrate the shadow to make peace with the forgotten self. But most men, unready to walk through that fire, cling harder. They call, they plead, they test her boundaries just to feel alive again. And she, the archetypal woman, she does not hate him for it. She simply knows that to collapse into his hunger would be to betray herself. She lets him feel the emptiness that has always been there, long before her face appeared to him. And as he wrestles with that emptiness, she turns inward, toward her own soul, toward the deep river of her own worth. In the end, it is not her rejection that haunts him. It is the way she does not collapse, the way she leaves without closing the door, without rage, without needing him to see her. Because when a woman like that walks away, she does not vanish. She becomes a presence inside his shadow, a compass pointing toward everything he is afraid to claim. And if he ever grows, it will be because she left him with the unbearable weight of that mirror. The woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more.